What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. 8-Bit Mike here. So today I have a Bitcoin video for you guys. I had somebody who was commenting with me back and forth on one of my shorts, and he wanted me to explain a little bit about Bitcoin. So first I want to go ahead and start off with what is Bitcoin? Well, this is Bitcoin. So that's a Bitcoin. All right, so that's what Bitcoin is, and thanks for watching, guys. Bye. Just kidding. That's not a Bitcoin. That's actually just a kind of replica physical version of what a Bitcoin would theoretically look like. But a real Bitcoin is actually a digital asset. And I'm not going to claim to be an expert about the inner workings of it, like the software code or how it's, how it's built. So I can explain to you my point of view on it. I'm not an expert on it, but what I can tell you is basically how I see it. All right, there we go. All right, let's get into this. So what I'm looking at here is I'm going to enlarge the chart here. That's pretty good. Okay, so we are on the 5-minute chart. Go to the day. Bitcoin's looking good today, by the way. There's a lot of stuff going on. Despite the trade wars going on with Trump, we had that Trump pump when he was inaugurated in November, and which actually happens to be. Let me go back to November. All right, so as you can see here, November 11th is when that Trump pump was, and there's a little bit of correction going on with everything that's going on in the news. But I gotta say, we are recovering very well. It's looking really good. So this is the year chart. Um, so let's get into what it is. Well, Bitcoin is a blockchain, and you can look up blockchain yourself. It's basically a type of software. It's a ledger, okay, and I'm not really gonna be able to explain anything on it further than that as far as the technicals and how it's designed. All I can tell you is that the Bitcoin is mined, and there's a halving every 4 years, and every 4 years, basically, the value does go up. Um, and because we're getting closer and closer to Bitcoin not being able to be mined anymore, which is, I don't think it's going to happen until somewhere around year 2100 and 2100 something. But after that, no more Bitcoin will be able to get mined. And at that point, the price of one Bitcoin is going to be, I'm pretty sure, over $1 million at that point, probably well over $1 million. But these 4-year cycles where there's a halving, it's hand in hand with the bull market. So if I were to go to the 5-year chart here, this last bull market was way back in 2021. So that was 4 years ago. That was the last bull market. Okay, and Bitcoin has been around since about 2010. And traditionally, Bitcoin was used to make purchases and do transactions on the deep web. Um, but the there's the coins can be used to do, unfortunately, illegal things and do illegal activities. And that's really ultimately why the government doesn't like it, because it's competing with the U.S. dollar, and it can't be tracked. The government wants to be able to track basically every transaction and what's going on. And there's a lot of good reasons why. They want to fight terrorism. They want to make sure that there's no undocumented purchases of nuclear weapons or stuff like that in third world countries. But they do want to kind of keep track of everything. So um, that's really the best for security from a security standpoint. So I don't see anything wrong with that. I do agree with that. However, Bitcoin, that's not what Bitcoin stands for. Bitcoin stands for privacy, and Bitcoin believes that whatever you want to purchase, it should be private to you. It should not be available to any prying eyes, or it shouldn't be available for the government to see what you're spending your money on and who spent that money and so forth. So, there's the U.S. dollar is the world currency right now, but as you know, keeping your money in U.S. dollars is really, you're losing money over time. If you were to put money into a savings account and just try to collect your average savings account interest rate, which is like, I don't know, under 1%, maybe up to 3%, um, you're really not really saving money, even if you're making 3% on whatever your deposit is, because inflation is canceling it out. I think the inflation rate was, I don't know where it's at right now. I think it's anywhere between 2 and 7%. So if you're making 3% in interest on your savings account, but inflation is up at 7%, you're losing money. So that's where investments come in. People don't want to leave their money in the bank because they're losing money to inflation. So they invest in various different types of investment. It could be mutual funds, it could be index funds, different types of funds. Um, like they say, you put your eggs in. You don't keep your eggs all in the same basket. You spread them out, and which helps with it protects you from if a certain industry were to tank, all your investments not in that industry or in that one investment because it's spread out to various assets. So there is some protection there. But you know, uh, so Bitcoin it's an investment. It's a digital asset, and it's a store of value. The most important thing is it's a store of value. And what I mean by that is instead of making that 3% on your savings account, Bitcoin has known to gain well over 3%. I mean, like I'm talking 30, 40, 50% is what you're making off of this investment, and in some cases over 100% with specific altcoins. And altcoins are going to be anything that's not Bitcoin. So if you look over here on my cryptos to watch list on the left side, we got ADA, which is Cardano, Avalanche, Bonk, uh, Dogecoin, which is, as you know, owned by Elon Musk, Ethereum, Chainlink, Litecoin, which I think is a stable coin if I'm not mistaken. USDC is, I believe, a stable coin, but XLM, which is your Stellar. Trump came out with the new coin. Solana, Shiba Inu, Pepe, and XRP, of course, which is up there with like the top three. The top three is like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, in my opinion. Those are altcoins, but Bitcoin is kind of the top dog right now. And it's actually, you're getting better returns with Bitcoin than even if you want to invest in gold, because gold has always been kind of like one of the top investments you can do for long-term store of value is to just buy gold. And over time, your gold's just slowly, incrementally increasing in value. But look at this chart here. This is a 5-year chart on Bitcoin. It only goes back to May 12th or about 2020. But as you can see here, the last bull run, it kicked off pretty good. And before the bull run kicked off, the price was at $11,000. Back then, people were like not sure if Bitcoin was going to go up. They thought maybe it was going to tank and it was just going to go to zero. And if you put your money in Bitcoin back then, you were just a loser and you were going to lose all your money. Well, anybody who thought that were surely mistaken, and they missed out, because if they would have bought Bitcoin at 11,800 and held on to it to the peak of the bull run, then the peak back then was about 64,000. I think it hit like 70,000. So, if you bought a whole Bitcoin for 11,000, sold it at 64, hey, that's like a $50,000 profit right there. But that's really the ultimate idea, is it's a store of value. You want to put your money in Bitcoin and get it for the lowest price possible and sell it for the highest price as possible. So this over here, it came down. This was the bear market, and there was an FTX collapse that happened back in 2022, and I think it was around this area right here where it tanked all the way back down to about 16,000. So I want to just tell you a quick little story. I actually bought Bitcoin around this time when it was at 19,000. And actually, I bought it. I can remember to the day that I bought it, which right here it says November 4th, which was right before this tank. I bought it right at like November 6th when it was at 21,000. And I bought almost a whole coin. And funny story is, the very next morning, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to make a couple thousand overnight, because it was going up it was fluctuating between 18,000 and 22,000. Well, the very next morning, that whole FTX scandal broke out all over the news, and it tanked from about 20,000 all the way down to about 15,000. So I was down about $5,000, and this whole period of time down here, I was kind of, not in a good mood. Times were not happy. And what ended up happening was it came back up to about 20 something and 21, and I did sell it, unfortunately, and I made like $600, but still, I mean, it was like 4 or 5 months of just nonsense and FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, by the way, if you hear anybody say that. But I was worried that it was going to come back down, so I just wanted to break even and take $600 profit. But as you know from previous bull cycles, always hold on to it. The pro Bitcoin gurus say never sell your Bitcoin, just hold on to it forever. And I do solidly believe that now, and I am going to buy some. And I don't have any right now. I haven't bought it. I mean, I bought a little bit, but I plan on buying a whole Bitcoin again. And obviously, I'm not gonna be able to buy it now because it's at about 103,000. It is pumping, as you can see over here. It's doing very good. But I'm gonna wait till the next crash, which is supposed to be in 2026, because like I said, it's a 4-year cycle. So the peak of the bull run, the end of this cycle's bull run, is supposed to be this year in 2025, and then sometime around the end of 2025 is supposed to be the peak, and it should crash. And I'm just gonna do my best to find the bottom. It could take a year, it could take 2 years, and I'm just gonna try my best to find like the bottom one is like this. This is the bottom from the last cycle. So I'm gonna try and find where the bottom might be in 2026, possibly 2027. And it could go down to, these previous cycle highs, which is about 63,000. And if it does, I'm just going to start DCAing, which is dollar cost averaging, and I'll just be putting money into Bitcoin on all the lows, and I'm just going to keep trying to time the bottom as best as I can. And the goal is to try and get back up to a full Bitcoin, because let's face it, if I would have just kept it when I bought it back at 20,000, right now it's at 103,000. I had almost a full Bitcoin, so I'd be up about $80,000 right now, and I could sell it and I could take that $80,000 profit, or I can just keep holding on to it and follow that saying, never sell your Bitcoin, because it's expected to go up to potentially about 130, 120, maybe 150,000. Some analysts say that it's undervalued and its true value is about 200,000. So I don't know where. Nobody really knows where it's going to go up to. Some people think it's going to go over 250,000. I'm in the camp where I think it's only going to go up to about 150,000. Potentially could test 200,000, but I'm not so sure about that. I feel more comfortable around 130 to 150,000 dollars is where it's going to hit at the peak, and after that, it's going to cool off. It's going to come back down, and I think it'll come back down under 100,000. And like I said, I'm just going to start trying to test those lows and do my best to time them. Okay, so that's ultimately the whole point of Bitcoin is, like I said, the privacy. Having privacy with your money and away from prying eyes from the government, and being able to have that long-term store of value. It's an investment.
All right, guys. So really sorry about that audio issue. I recorded that whole video and my microphone was disabled the whole time and my camera was recording audio. So really apologize about that distortion. Anyways, if you got this far, thanks for watching. Please drop a like and please subscribe, help grow the channel. Check out some of my music videos, check out some of my meditation videos, and then I'm starting to work on some shorts. I'm starting to record some historic 200 to 300-year-old houses here in San Antonio, Texas. So those really are quite the sight. So please check them out. Anyways, guys, see you on the next one.